Now, Scott Bauer, the CEO of Prosper Trading Academy, is joining us this afternoon. He's got to look his eye on a couple stocks he thinks we should keep an eye on and have a look at. Traders, Scott, welcome. Let's begin with the move lower first and foremost, Scott, that we're seeing in the dollar, some of the selling there. This comes with rates that are to the upside, which is obviously starting to attract some attention in terms of that divergence.
Yeah, no doubt about it. You see the dollar's down about 0.2% today. And, you know, it may very well be back on its way towards those lows we saw on March 9th, down around 95.30 or so. But, you know, what's really happening here is the risk on sentiment in the marketplace. Even though today the overall equity market is, let's call it flat to, you know, just mildly bearish, the overall risk on sentiment around the world due to the optimism about, you know, opening up the economies that's really hurting the dollar. You know, Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, they both came out recently with some very, very bearish reports on the dollars, you know, based really upon global growth prospects and as the lockdowns are easing. And, you know, for the near term here, Ben, the momentum is definitely to the downside.
Yeah, we've got rates. We got a chart here. The TNX inching up here to 0.80. Well, just above that right now. It's up about 7 1/3%. Yeah, but the dollar in this purple line certainly telling us a little bit of a different story. I agree with you, Scott, because mainly if you look, you've seen, I'm sure, the move in the yen. It's also a reflection of similar price activity in terms of some of that risk on sentiment coming back into the currencies as some of that bid comes out of the currencies with the indices bid. Scott, let's talk about how the airlines are leading today. I noticed United, American Airlines leading the S&Ps, the NASDAQ. I saw Delta also getting a bid. It looked like they were granted approval to halt service to various airports where we're seeing reductions in demand.
No doubt about it. And even though they're not part of the S&P, throw in Spirit Airlines, Save. That thing's up 22% today and about 40% over the last couple of days. But yes, across the board here, obviously the optimism about reopening the economy is flowing into many of the destination stocks and the airlines. Now, Delta, if you look right above here, and you know, I always like to look at the technicals, Delta is approaching this kind of gap area of around $38. That's something I would be very, very careful of. So I do think it has a little bit more room on the upside, but 38 is probably a point where you're going to see a lot of sellers coming in. Very similar looking chart on United, Ben, up at 44. So you look at both of those charts there, and again, I think they both have some room to run here, but the euphoria about the opening, the optimism over the economy getting going again, may take a breather if they hit those points.
All right, so we've got some optimism that's giving them a lift, but potentially running into a little bit of resistance up here. We'll keep an eye. Is there any one of the three, Scott, that you feel more strongly about? You said it was Delta, I think it was, that you were a little bit more bullish on relative to others. Is it? Is there a reason why, other than technicals?
It's technicals, and I think they've been at least I've seen the most proactive in terms of what they're doing with their seating, what they're doing with their capacity. So that's out there already. It's in the news already.
Investors have been able to factor that in, some potentially less capacity and fewer seats full per flight. Let's talk a little bit about, we've got a company that's set to report quarterly results here. You've got your eye on an earnings preview. I saw DOCU been doing well throughout the pandemic, to say the least. I can understand why. The company set to report quarterly results. Investors seem to be somewhat optimistic into this report. New highs I saw this week. What do you have your eye on here, Scott?
Yeah, no doubt about it. A little bit of profit taking today, I think, ahead of the number, as many people expect this to have to be the perfect report. What are they going to do, not just over the prior quarter, which encompassed a lot of the lockdowns and stay-at-home, work-from-home scenarios, but what are they going to do about guidance if they issue guidance at all? What's it going to be like once the economy opens up? And I think this is a stock that's really here to stay, that even as we do start to open up, people aren't going to throw this platform away that they've started to use. So I think it is a fantastic platform. I'm very bullish on it, even though, you know, there has been a bit of a sell-off, maybe a little bit of profit taking going into the print today.
All right, definitely something to watch here, Scott. A great breakdown on a few airline stocks that are bid today.
Can I one more thing?
And, well, of course you can, Scott, always.
I'm sorry. Going back to Delta Airlines, look at the put call volume today. It is humongous. Okay. 1 calls versus puts today. Absolutely overboard. So, a lot of optimism from the public and the investors out there in this stock as well. Sorry to interrupt there.
All right. No, not at all. I want to hear it all, Scott. And that's probably why, as you were mentioning earlier, maybe you were thinking of it in terms of bringing to our attention at that moment, but that's probably one of the reasons why you're leaning towards Delta, a bit more bias, as I had mentioned. We could see the move here up and through the 32. We'll keep an eye on some of the resistance you did mention to the upside here. This chart kind of reminds me of crude in some ways in terms of the move and seeing some of the bid activity that we've been seeing recently. Really appreciate you joining us here, Scott, and giving us part of your Thursday afternoon. We look forward to seeing you back here in the near future. Trader Scott Bauer is the CEO for Trading Academy. It's helping us look here at the weakness we've been seeing in the U.S. dollar. We're talking here the bid we've been seeing in some of the airline stocks, and then a little bit of a preview in terms of earnings here, in terms of DOCU signs. Stick around.